Hi everyone, I know it's been a long wait, but finally here's a review for volume 73 of One Piece. This volume came out in March. The title, which is written up here, is Operation Dressrosa SOP. Looking at the front cover, we have Luffy right here, Doflamingo, Chopper, Sanji, Momonosuke, Nami, Brook, Law, and right here in the middle at the back is King Riku. So side we have Sanji, back nothing. Taking this front jacket off, it's the same with the side, and the back is just blank. So let's take a look inside. This volume, 73, has 10 chapters from 722 to chapter 731. So before I continue with the review, I'd just like to briefly go over what happened towards the end of the last volume. At the end of the last volume, we saw Rebecca going into the Colosseum ring for her battle. That's block D she's in. And this volume just continues on from that bit. Chapter 722. So like I said, Rebecca enters the Colosseum, and you probably saw this in the anime, the most recent anime episode of One Piece. So she enters the Colosseum ring, and the crowds are saying bad things, saying hurtful things, slurs, and all this kind of rude, terrible things they're saying to and about Rebecca. Even the other contestants are saying bad things. And Cavendish shouts back at the audience, or the crowd, in her defense. And the crowd just quiets down a little bit. Of course, Rebecca thanks him, but he tells her that he's an enemy just like every other contestant in this block D. So the battle royale starts. Meanwhile, at the flower field, Leo and the one-legged soldier, so this is Leo, he's the dwarf, if you don't remember who he is, and the one-legged soldier, sometimes he's called the Thunder Soldier. But anyway, they both giving a speech to everyone, assembling and preparing the army for the upcoming battle. Elsewhere, Zoro tries to find his way back to Nami and the rest on Mononosuke. But he runs into Sanji and Kinemon, as you can see right here. Violet shows up in disguise and informs them here that the ship is being taken towards the green bit. On the Mononosuke, remember that Brook, Chopper, Nami, and Mononosuke have been turned into this kind of piece of abstract art. Now, at this point here, Brook comes up with the idea of almost befriending this person here. Her name is Jorah, one of the officers of Doflamingo's crew or army. And Brook manages to convince her that he is on her side in this whole weird view of abstract art. But in fact, he's done all that so that he can trick her into returning his sword to normal in order to defeat her, which he does eventually. And she's actually pretty weak. As soon as Brook defeats her, everyone turns back to normal. Yeah, that's about it from there. Back to green bit. And here we're about to find something very interesting about the world government and yeah, the history of how it was formed. So as you can see here, Law is being beaten, and he's being held in place by Admiral Fujitora's gravity ability, and Doflamingo is telling Law that there were 20 kings or 20 royal families that formed the world government, and 19 of those families left their country and went to live in Marijol. The one family that didn't live there is the royal family of Alabasta, who we met before. But anyway, these royal family left their countries, and their old countries didn't have any structure to deal with this, so they eventually elected their monarchs, basically. At this point here, Doflamingo reveals that the royal family of Dressrosa at the moment, or before he came to power in Dressrosa, was the royal family of the Riku family. But before the world government was formed, the royal family that governed Dressrosa was in fact Doflamingo's family, the Donkey Kong family. And this is quite a shocker, because now we realise that Doflamingo can't really be touched, because in fact if he is a member of the Donkey Kong family who's one of the families that created the world government, therefore he is in fact a nobleman. One could almost say a celestial dragon. This means that really Doflamingo can't be touched by the Marines or world government. He could practically get away with anything. One more thing, the world government was formed like 900 years ago, so by those 20 royal families. But the Riku family came to power in Dressrosa around 800 years ago. So there's those blank 100 years that no one seems to know about, even the Dwarves and probably even some of the people in Dressrosa, because obviously that history's been lost. And if you do remember, Robin is trying to find out what happened during that blank period of history in the world. But anyway, going on to the next chapter. So, chapter 723. Zoro and Kinemon are trying to enter the Colosseum to try and find and inform Luffy of the situation that has developed without his knowledge. Meanwhile, Sanji has run off with Violet in order to get to the Sonigo to try and save Nami and the rest of the crew. Law hasn't given up on his objectives, and he does manage to escape Doflamingo and Fujitora's grip and escapes. Makes a run with Caesar in hand, and he has a plan on sending him back to the Sunny and stoling Doflamingo so that the Straw Hats can get away with Caesar Clown. So here we have Doflamingo chasing after Law. Gone too far. Oh, where is it? Right, yeah, right here. So he chases after Law, and right at this point he senses or he hears the Straw Hats on the Sunny Go, and he figures out Law's plan. So instead of going after Law, he decides to attack the Sunny Go. And just as he's about to do so, Sanji appears and defends the ship. That takes us on to the next chapter. So Sanji here is trying to defend the Sunny Go. He is attacking or fighting Doflamingo, but he eventually is defeated. So right here, Doflamingo is about to do some pretty large amount of damage to Sanji, but Law manages to save him, and he teleports himself, Sanji and Caesar Clown back to the Sunny Go. Here Law tells the Straw Hats to immediately head to Seoul. If you don't remember, that's an island just a short way away from Dressrosa. So once aboard the ship, Law orders the Straw Hats to head to Seoul. If you don't remember, that's an island just a short way from Dressrosa. Of course, Nami and the rest of the crew don't want to leave Dressrosa, as Luffy and everyone else is on the island. They can't leave without the captain. At this point, a battleship comes flying towards them, and Doflamingo comes in for another attack. On top of that, the Straw Hats come under attack from several meteorites. Of course, here we see that Law's using his ability to deflect the meteorites. He also tells the Straw Hats to head towards a cloudless area on the sea to escape from Doflamingo, because he ate the Ito Ito no Mi, basically the string fruit. And basically what he's done is use his ability to attach his strings to clouds, and that's how he's able to fly and chase after people and even control them using thread or strings. But anyway, at this point the Admiral, Fujitora, orders his men to head towards Dressrosa. The ship's taking heavy damage. Here Law threatens to kill Joa if Doflamingo doesn't stop his attack on the Straw Hats, and because of that the Straw Hats manage to get away, but Law stays behind in order to either stall for time or to defeat Doflamingo. We find out here that Trafalgar Law does have a huge grudge against Doflamingo. He also tells Doflamingo that he's ending the alliance with the Straw Hats, because once they stop the production of Smile, Kaido, who is one of the Yonkos, will wipe out Doflamingo for not upholding his end of a deal of supplying Smile products to him. And right here it's written that Trafalgar Law is saying something like he is going to make Doflamingo pay for something he did 13 years ago. Anyway, going on to the next chapter. One thing I failed to mention was that Doflamingo seemed quite interested in Mononosuke. He wanted to kidnap Mononosuke for some unknown reason. We have yet to find out what that reason is. But anyway, going on to the next chapter. Doflamingo and Law begin their battle. Meanwhile, back on the Sunny Go, Mononosuke tells the crew of Doflamingo's cruelty and how he is quite traumatized from seeing these scenes of cruelty. And because of this, he's afraid for Kanjuro's safety. If you don't remember who Kanjuro is, he is a samurai who sacrificed himself at Dressrosa in order for Mononosuke's father, Kinemon, to set out in search of Mononosuke. Here we have Zoro and Kinemon. So they've met up with Bartholomew, who agrees to find Luffy if Zoro could give him an autograph. Remember, Bartholomew is a fangirl of the Straw Hat Pirates. Going back into the Colosseum, now at the ring, Rebecca is defeating fighter after fighter by tripping them over, well, I should say tripping them out of the ring without injuring them. It's quite spectacular, and even Luffy's impressed, asking whether she has observational haki, Kenbun Shoku no haki. Meanwhile, the other fighters from the blocks, from the same block that Luffy fought in, that is, are receiving treatment for their injuries. So here we have Sai, who's been taken, and instead of receiving treatment, he's being dropped into this kind of underground chamber with the rest of the tournament dropouts, as well as diseased toys. Remember, earlier we learned from the one-leg soldier, in the previous volume that is, we learned that the toys who talked about their time as a human were considered as diseased toys. So anyway, these contestants, or dropouts from the tournaments, are dumped in this chamber, and no one seems to know what's going on or what's going to happen to them. On to the next chapter, 726. So still in the underground chamber, they're noticing that everyone is being dropped in there. Every contestant that's failed or been eliminated. And these people are just talking among themselves, and they realise that Ricky here is actually the former king of Dressrosa, King Riku. Here we see the King of Providence. He seems to have some kind of good relation with King Riku. He even says here that King Riku, while in power, his country has saved King Providence and his country a few times in the past. At this point, the toys, the diseased toys, upon hearing this, begin to move, realizing that this is King Riku. Quite a lot of the other contestants who were former soldiers in King Riku's service, as well as some of the toys, kneel before him. Of course, many of the other contestants who are from outside the country and are quite confused as to why they're kneeling before this supposedly mad or insane king. Suddenly, a thread of goo comes from the ceiling and takes Sai away. Right here. And he is transformed into a toy through some unseen method. Now, going back to the Colosseum, Luffy's trying to get a better view of the ring to see Rebecca's battle. As he leaves the area he was in, he meets up with Bartholomew. In the flower fields, Gancho, remember he is the Tontanta's chief, he reveals the cruelty of the Donkey Kong family to the Straw Hat crews that are with him. So, right here, he says that his people, the Dwarves, were slaves of the Donkey Kong family, and they were used in order to benefit the big people, as they called them. That was into the rise of the Riku family, where the Riku family treated them much better, respected them, and told that they could take anything and everything from the people of Dressrosa and the land, and that he will cover for them as and call them fairies, the act of fairies. The Dwarves agree that Doflamingo's presence is bad for the country, and that they know that King Riku is not insane or crazy or a villain as most people think, but in fact they realize that he was framed in an incident 10 years ago which cost the trust of his people. Finally, here we find out that the one-legged soldier, or the Thunder Soldier as he's sometimes called, reveals that he is in fact Rebecca's father. Shocker. I'm sure most people guessed that already. So chapter 727. The one-legged soldier continues with his story. Of course, he broke the news in the previous chapter that he was Rebecca's father, and he decides here to tell the whole story of King Riku's madness in the incident 10 years ago. So going back 10 years, this is a flashback. Doflamingo appears before King Riku, as you can see right here. Very small, but it's right there. And he demands 10 billion berry from King Riku. He says that because the Donkey Kong family are the rightful rulers of Dressrosa, so he has to sell the island or sell the nation to the Riku family. So he is demanding for this 10 billion berry as a payment. Not only to buy the country, but also for Doflamingo to leave the country alone. King Riku, seeing no other option, he tells his soldiers to go into towns and collect additional tax. But Doflamingo did mention to King Riku not to tell the citizens anything about this deal. So of course the people confused as to why there's additional tax. King Riku does a broadcast begging for the people to cooperate, ask for their money. Of course the people love their king, and they do hand over money. As they are doing so, all hell breaks loose as King Riku attacks buildings and people. And the reason is because Doflamingo is controlling and manipulating his movements. Remember, he has the Ito no Mi ability, and he has taken control over King Riku's body. And he's using King Riku in order to spoil his name and respect among the people, and try to even cause a revolt and see him as a villain. Of course the citizens are confused by this, and even these King Riku soldiers become puppets of Doflamingo, and they also begin attacking the people of Dressrosa. Here in the shadows we see Doflamingo's crew ready to swoop down to save the day and become heroes in the eye of the people of Dressrosa. Of course at this point most people would realize this is a very similar idea to Crocodile in the Alabasta arc. Crocodile, what he did was he defeated pirates and bandits who were running amok in Alabasta, and because of that he gained fame and respect among the people of Alabasta, and he hoped that that would propel him onto the throne. Of course here Doflamingo didn't mess around, he went in hard, he went in with a lot of backup with his crew, and he managed to take the kingdom eventually, as we see in the next chapter, in one day, or one night I should say. So before they actually come to the rescue, we see here Monet. If you remember, she was in the Punk Hazard arc. We find out that she was an inside spy for the Donkey Kong family, for Doflamingo, and that because of her, Doflamingo's subordinates managed to take control of the castle and even take Princess Viola here hostage. Of course, her name is sometimes called Viola, sometimes Violet. And this is Doflamingo's crew. At this point here, King Riku's spirit is broken. He is begging for someone to kill him, because King Riku has probably killed a lot of his people in Dressrosa. So he's begging for someone to stop him. The people are confused. Their trust in the king and his family in tatters. They believe him to be the villain that Doflamingo claimed or made him to be. And right at this moment, Doflamingo appears with his strongest crew members and defeats the king and his corrupt or evil plans and soldiers and whatnot. So at that point, Doflamingo has won. He's finally claimed back the throne as his. The one-legged soldier, right here, he continues on saying that in exchange for King Riku's life, for sparing his life, Viola would have to pledge loyalty and become one of his subordinates, which she does. So the one-legged soldier goes on to explain that the toys of Dressrosa were once people, and they still remember who they were, and they remember how or who turned them into toys, and that these toys would be the drive for the revolt and defeating Doflamingo. Here we go back to the underground chamber we saw earlier. We see all the other tournament dropouts have been taken and turned to toys. And there are only King Riku and Chinjiao left. They don't remember the other people because if you remember earlier on in the previous volume, when humans are turned into toys, their life is almost erased from existence, from the minds of people they know or loved or cared about. Well, I shouldn't say just that, but also from the world. The only probably real proof would be physical proof, but anything else would be gone. And towards the end of this chapter we see Bellamy. Remember, Bellamy was tasked with eliminating Luffy. That would be his ticket into the Donkey Kong, or Doflamingo's, I should say, Doflamingo's crew. That's the end of this chapter. Continue on to chapter 729. Here Bellamy is about to attack Luffy, but he's interrupted by one of Doflamingo's subordinates. His name is Dellinger, right here. And Dellinger is under order to eliminate Bellamy, as Doflamingo has finally considered Bellamy a nuisance. Moving on back to the Iron Bridge, where Doflamingo and Law are continuing on with their battle. Of course, during this battle we do see that Doflamingo does seem to have the upper hand in this match. During the fight, Doflamingo does receive a call from this guy, Diamante, and he calls to inform Doflamingo that Violet has betrayed them. Doflamingo kind of expected this, but he orders Diamante to send Lao Ji at the entrance of the factory to prevent the Straw Hats from attacking or destroying the factory. Going back to the Colosseum, we have Luffy and Zoro. They finally met up. And here we have the Marines. They've seen through Zoro's disguise, and they suspect, they don't know for sure, but they suspect that Lucy is actually Straw Hat Luffy. So going back to Zoro and Luffy and Kinemon, they are having a meeting via Dendemushi with the other Straw Hats elsewhere, in order to share their knowledge of the event so far. After a few discussions, Sanji decides that him and the people on the Sonico should head back towards Dressrosa, as their abilities or their power could be put to better use helping the others. Here, Frankie, after being moved by the story of the Dwarves and the people of Dressrosa, he asks Luffy for permission to assist King Riku's army. Remember, this is King Riku's army. And their revolution in order to bring down Doflamingo. Here, Luffy does tell him to go wild. Here we have Admiral Fujitora. He arrives at the shore of Dressrosa, and he hears ruckus and commotions in town towards the colosseum. So heading towards that commotion, we see Doflamingo standing over the body of Law. Law has been quite badly injured. On top of that, Doflamingo shoots Law 3 times. Of course, it wouldn't be surprising if Law died from those wounds now. But we'll find out in the next chapter more about this situation. Chapter 730. Having shot Trafalgar Law 3 times, Doflamingo lies to the onlookers, telling them that Law was actually the one responsible for the morning's fake newspaper about Doflamingo leaving or abdicating the throne. Zoro and Kinemon attempt to save Law, but here we have Fujitora. He appears and blocks Sword and sends him on the ground using his ability. Doflamingo here attacks Kinemon. Luffy tries to help, but is blocked by the colosseum bars, which are made out of kairoseki. The rest of the crew who are listening via the Dendemushi are shocked to learn that Doflamingo has an admiral on his side, because now they know that an admiral is also in play, that he'll be also facing the Marines on top of Doflamingo and his crew. So Fujitora and Doflamingo pick up Law and head towards the palace in order to have a serious conversation between the relationship of the Marines and the Donkey Kong family, and whether he and his crew, I should say, Fujitora and his crew should help in Doflamingo's Straw Hat problems. So at this point here, Zoro, who manages to get out of that hall, tells Luffy to try find a way out, while the two of them, Zoro and Kinemon, try and evade marines who are now chasing them. At this point, Sanji's group, who are on board the Sonigo, are attacked by a singing ship which belonged to the Yonko Big Mom. So, one problem after another. Tamago and Pecons, who we met on Fishman Island, they're on board the ship, and they reveal that their goal is Caesar Clown. So the Straw Hats realize that they have to keep these new enemies away from Dressrosa in order for King Riku's army and their revolution to work well, because if they had more enemies then it would be even more chaotic. So Luffy gives the order for Sanji and the rest of the crew on board the Sonigo to head to Zou. Right. Here Nami, this is before Luffy gives the order to head to Zou, but here Nami is telling Luffy of the 3 cards. 2 of the cards are Mononosuke, who Doflamingo seems to be very interested in for some unknown reason, and Caesar Clown. So these are the 2 cards that the Straw Hats have. And the card that Doflamingo have, that the Straw Hats are trying to find and destroy, is the factory. So at this point, Nami is just telling them it would be a bad idea for the crew on board the Sonigo to head back to Dressrosa, because not only would they bring the forces of Big Mom to Dressrosa, but also they could practically hand Doflamingo, Caesar Clown, and Mononosuke. Of course, at that point, then Luffy agrees, and be a better idea if they head to Zou. Finally, at this point here on this last page of this chapter, Luffy states in anger that they would head to the palace not only to save Law, but also to defeat Doflamingo. And finally, the last chapter of this volume, 731, Operation Dressrosa SOP, which shares the same title as this volume. Back at the Colosseum, Bellamy has been badly injured by Dellinger, but he's also been saved by Bartholomew, just here. And of course, Dellinger seems quite mad for not being able to finish Bellamy. But Dellinger has to leave because he's received new orders. Going back to the one-legged soldier, he explains the layout of the secret underground factories and the trade boards, and as well as where the toy slaves and dwarves are being held. He also reveals the identity of the devil fruit user who's been turning people into toys. That's her here. Her name is Sugar. And the one-legged soldier believes as he states here, that by defeating Sugar, everything she's done would basically undo itself. So all those people who've been turned to toys would turn back into humans. The memories of them would return to those who have forgotten about them. Going back to the Colosseum, Luffy is trying to find the exit, runs into Bartholomew and the injured Bellamy. And through a series of conversations, Bellamy tells Luffy that he knows of an exit. At this point, Luffy is a bit reluctant to leave the Mero no Mi. Remember, Mero no Mi is the fruit that his brother Ace ate. Yeah, but so he was reluctant to leave the tournament because he wouldn't be able to get the fruit. But his friends' lives were at stake, so he had no choice but to leave. But Bartholomew, he tells Luffy that he agrees to win the devil fruit for him. At this point here, a stranger appears and tells Luffy he cannot have the fruit. And after brushing aside Bartholomew, he comes face to face with Luffy. And Luffy turns a bit teary-eyed while looking at him. And, of course, quite shocked. Luffy escaped the Colosseum and meet up with Zoro and Kinemon and disguise themselves as animal toys to escape the Marines. Here, of course, Luffy is teary-eyed. Zoro's asking why he's crying, and he says it's nothing. Here we have Koala. If you don't remember who she is someone who appears during the Fishman Island arc. More specifically, the backstory of Fisher Tiger and the Sun Pirates. And she is communicating with the stranger who talked to Luffy in the Colosseum, who made him all teary-eyed. And as you can see here, he's wearing Lucy's clothes. And they talk about promises and things like that. And then we go back to Luffy, who says through his tears that the stranger he met was someone he thought was dead for a very long time. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. I do apologise for the tardiness of this video. So thank you.